Lizzie Sear was a Canadian woman known for her role in a seminal Canadian court case. Sear was charged with vagrancy by Calgary police in 1917. Vagrancy was, at that time, a euphemism for prostitution. The John who reported her claimed she had infected him with gonorrhea. Sear had been charged with vagrancy on previous occasions, but, in 1917, she was defended by John McKinley Cameron, a lawyer with a record of taking pro bono cases and finding new arguments for their defense. The magistrate hearing her case was Alice Jamieson, one of just two female magistrates in Alberta. Jamieson interrupted Cameron's questioning of Sear's accuser, where he had been pointing out that, as a frequent customer of prostitutes, he couldn't know whether Sear infected him or he infected Sear. Cameron had pointed out that Sear's accuser was just as much a risk to public health as Sear. After Jamieson sentenced Sear before he was finished his defense of her, he challenged Jamieson's status, arguing that, since women were not recognized as persons by Canadian law, Jamieson's appointment as a magistrate was invalid. Jamieson sentenced Sear to 6 months hard labor. Appeals courts in Alberta had upheld Jamieson, but, in 1928, the Supreme Court of Canada confirmed that, under Canadian law, Jamieson was not a person. 5 Canadian activists for human rights, Emily Murphy, Henrietta Edwards, Nellie McClung, Louise McKinney, and Irene Parlby had cited the rulings of the Alberta appeals courts in their pursuit to get women's rights recognized. In 1928, Canada was still on its evolution to a fully independent country, and rulings of the Supreme Court were not final. They could be appealed to the United Kingdom's Privy Council. The UK Privy Council did overturn the Supreme Court, confirming women were persons. This ruling is considered a historic moment in Canadian constitutional history. In October 2018, Naomi Sayers, an activist for women's rights and Indigenous peoples' rights, referred to Sear's case in an op-ed in the Huffington Post on Canada's murdered and missing First Nations women. Sayers suggested that prejudice against Sear's Métis heritage played a role in the harshness of Jamieson's sentence. She noted the irony that while the UK Privy Council's ruling helped white women establish their right to vote, Aboriginal women were not able to vote until 1960. References